Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos and welcome to Mythic Nexus Princess Ky'veza. So this strategy that we used on this boss is the Echo strategy, and I think it makes the most sense for a lot of guilds. It's got a little bit less potentially uptime advantages than the Liquid one, but it is easier to, because you're just always doing the same thing in every set. You don't have to make an adjustment, so that's how we're doing this. It's important if you do this strat that all of these world markers are in the right place. It doesn't actually have to be the same world marker, but you have to precisely place them right in this spot in each of these slices. And then your first set of assassination targets should need to move to be just on the kind of tip of the triangle in 5 of the 6 edges of the room or points of the hexagon, right? So these positions are important. They're precise. You need to drop in exactly these spots. You can also use this spot. We actually kind of made it a rule that if you could avoid it, you would avoid dropping here because our evokers were playing on this side of the room, and this way the evokers could still have melee or range to the boss. Not the end of the world, though. You just need to get 5 of the 6 drops in these positions because there's only 5 drops. And then the tank will move the boss towards the side that doesn't have one of these for the first set of Void Rifts. The Void Rifts here. Now you have all the people that dropped these are going to be exploding with orbs. And what they're going to do is they're going to stand between 2 rifts. And actually, look, there's this, we were calling it a rhombus. Now, I don't know if it's actually a rhombus, but you can look up here. Here's an example of it. It's this little shape up here. And the rule was, if you stand on the tip of the rhombus and you don't move, which again, I don't know if this is a rhombus or not, but you stand on the tip of this structure, this little part of the ground, and it's replicated on all 6 of these. If you stand there and you don't move, you will get gripped in, and you will shoot out your orbs such that they don't hit the middle of the room, which is where the rest of the raid will be, and then you'll all be safe. Everybody will be safe and happy in the middle of the room, in the darkness, in the AMZ. It's all, good. Everybody's happy. So that's how you do that first drop. Now, here comes the next part of the fight. Dashes are going to come out, and the Mythic mechanic on this fight is that in the first phase, 3 of the 5 ads have a mask on them. In the second phase, 4 of the 5 ads have a mask on them. And in the third phase, 5 of the 5 ads have a mask on them. And you need to clear those masks with the dash through the boss. If you don't clear all the masks by the intermission, it explodes your raid. So, but if you ever do 3 at once, the boss gets a permanent damage amp. If you do them in sets of 1 or 2, it's a temporary damage amp. So in order to facilitate this, the rule is you need to clear at least 1 mask on the first charge of phase 1, exactly 2 on the first charge of P2, and exactly 2 in the first charge of P3, which is always possible. So to make this happen, we have X is the area that's clear of a debuff, right? Or of a person. And then what I want to do is we're going to have all of our people that are targeted by a charge. They are going to identify which ad is charging them, and they are going to look 2 markers to the clockwise of their targeting ad and go to that marker. So here come those charges, right? And whoever's targeted by this ad needs to go 1, 2. So they need to go and stand exactly on diamond. Exactly on diamond. Whoever's targeted by this ad needs to go to the marker up there. Whoever's targeted by this ad needs to come over exactly on triangle. And if you stand exactly on these markers, your ad will then dash to the point of the hexagon that is just past that, because they dash like 10 yards further than their target. So by doing this, we're going to keep symmetry in the room, and we're also going to create a bunch of spots where the 2 lines overlap, right? You see where the boss is right now. This ad and this ad are charging through. Now, the rule is here, at least one of these ads needs to have a mask on it, which, by the way, if you don't have this red highlight, turn off anti-aliasing, and you'll be able to see it in your graphic settings. So this, and I think you have to set some graphic settings to high as well. So fiddle around with those. Good luck. Yeah, so the rule is I look at the state of the room here, and X is empty. So since X is empty, after everybody dashes 2 clockwise, now circle is going to be empty. If possible, I'd like the boss to be near the empty spot so that it does less total movement. So what I want to check first is this spot a valid spot for me to take the boss? And the answer is yes, because there's at least 1 mask in this spot and this spot. So for that reason, I take the boss over here. and these two charge through it. One of them has a mask, so it clears, and the other one doesn't, which is fine. The boss gets a 12-second buff that's 10% increased damage and pulses some raid damage, and there are 2 masks outstanding. We'll deal with them later. Now we get daggers. Nexus daggers come out, and these are one-shots. You have to dodge them. The people who were hit by those charge are also taking this Queensbane dot, which is a very nasty dot. The rule on this fight is if you're ever getting a Queensbane dot, press a defensive. So that's if you're one of the initial drops or one of the charge targets, you get Queensbane. Press a defensive, and you can press a defensive. Oftentimes, it's better to take the initial hit and then press the defensive a couple seconds into the dot so that it will last through the end of the dot, because getting low early and then getting healed is good. Throughout this entire fight, if you ever hit 10% health, you get executed as well. So your health bar is more sketchy than it looks for the entire fight. And then again, whoever has this dot needs to move somewhere along the edge rather than towards the points of the hexagon. And that way their Queensbane orbs will be shot such that they don't hit the middle of the room. See how all of these orbs leave the middle of the room clear, and that's where the rest of the raid is safe and sound. Then you need to move the boss to whichever of the areas, whichever of the 6 points doesn't have an image, which, if we're lucky, is right by where the boss already is. If not, the boss has to get moved to wherever that is. But usually you get to keep it basically where it is. Then you move the boss to the middle of the room, and we get our next set of charges. Now, the rule for this set of charges, for the second set of charges in each phase, is just move these images through the boss. You have to charge on a straight line through the boss, and you have to get on the other side of the other image, right? So if I'm targeted by this ad over here, I need to get on the other side of this ad here. Because if I just go here, I'm going to get hit by this charge and by this charge, and then I'm going to die. So whoever gets targeted by these, you can see, quickly gets out, gets past the ad that is on their side, and all 5 of these are charging through the boss. This one is there doesn't have anything on the other side, so this person just needs to get somewhere along this line segment over here. So these all charge through the boss. 2 masks were still on the ads, so the boss gets a 2 stack of the mask debuff. And then there's now an empty spot over here. So after this tank combo, which that thing really hurts, by the way, use a defensive every time you're getting the tank combo, and then also scatter your defensives throughout the dot, because the dot is really hurty as well. You then get another set of these daggers. Again, the daggers, while people have their Queensbanes, which they're taking out towards line segments. If you ever realize that you and somebody else ran to the same area, it's not the end of the world. Somebody just needs to go further out than the other person, but you won't hit each other because of the angle here. So you just need to line up relative to the middle of the room and go further out than the other person, and pop a defensive probably, because you'll range some healers. You're probably already popping a defensive, but panic, pop another defensive, call for something. Always panic on this fight, and you might not die. Okay, then, yeah, after these daggers finish, whichever tank is trying to do this, you're going to have to dodge balls because you're not in the middle of the room, which is safe. So you can see I'm just kind of inching in and out of the boss's hitbox to avoid those balls. And the rift, it doesn't have to go far out. It just has to be, ideally, not in this inner hexagon here. Then everybody's getting gripped again. This is a good spot. This is one of the few spots where the raid is stacked as well, so you can use some raid AoE stuff. Congratulations. If you made it this far with 20 people alive, you're pretty close to done with the fight. Now you enter the intermission, and so for the intermission, you need to spread everybody out throughout the room such that they are... because the way it works is that you're going to get these regicide lines, and you need to basically not be griefing by having everybody stacked up. And at the end of the phase, everybody's going to get a regicide line. So what we did is we actually had a set plan for who's going to stand where so that we could all avoid hitting each other with our lines. And that is pretty important, that you go to your specific spot every time. And as long as you set it up this way, right, each ranged person kind of only has one other ranged person to worry about that's near them. Each melee only has a couple people on their side. And so we all set up this nice spread around the room. You can see it with the minimap here. And your goal is to keep dancing in your area. Now, the boss is going to blow up sections of the room, and those are going to rotate around the room, either clockwise or counterclockwise, I believe. The rule here is that if you don't have a line on you, if you don't have a regicide line, you should try and move into the slice that was most recently hit of the two that you're kind of playing on the line between, because the other one is going to get hit next, right? So like right now, this slice to my right is just about to get hit. As soon as I can, I move into it. Now the slice on my left just get hit. So as soon as I can, I want to move into it. But now I got a blaze line, so I want to stop moving until this regicide line actually resolves. And then I can move back as soon as this hit comes. I move back to the right. As soon as this hit comes, I proactively scoot back to the left. I should have scooted more there. Now I scoot back to the right. Now that one explodes, and I should scoot back to the left, even before I get these lines. Defensive, as soon as you get a line in this phase. I promise you, if everybody in your raid just hits one defensive as soon as they get their first line in this phase, or the second line if you're feeling really healthy, that will be really good. Surviving this end part of the fight as well, you kind of just need to make sure that you have a spread such that not everybody's going to get hit, because every single person in your raid will get a line at the same time here. You can pop some immunes here as well, immune and stand in the slice that's getting hit to save space for the rest of your raid. But here you can see, yeah, this is every single person in the raid gets hit with a blaze line. Somebody drops below 10% and gets executed by the boss. Instantly battle res by me, though. Immediate reaction. Then we get back to phase 1, and now it's the same thing. The exact same set of mechanics happens. There will be 5 people targeted. These people will need to go out to one of the markers, to one of the edges of the room, rather. Not the markers, but one of the points of the triangle. Tank mechanic comes out. The boss gets moved over towards one of the edges. We get one of these grips. People go on to the point of the rhombus, which, again, I don't think is a rhombus, but whatever shape it is, they go onto that outer point of it, and they get gripped in. Now, okay, here, so you can see... Again, I have a decision to make, which is where do I move the boss? And I need to clear exactly 2 of the masks on this set. So I have to go somewhere where the overlapping lines are both from masked ads. I would like to move the boss down here just past circle, because then that's where the empty spot is going to be, because everything is shifting 2 clockwise, right? So the empty spot is going to shift 2 clockwise to here as well. But I can't do that because this ad doesn't have a mask. So only one of those ads has a mask. If I were to do that, then there would still be 3 outstanding masks. Those would all charge through the boss later in the phase, and we would get an unnecessary and unhealable damage buff. So I have to adjust, and I instead move the boss to the closest possible spot to that, which is going to be 1 away from where the empty spot's going to be. And then 2 charge to the boss. The boss hits me for a bunch of damage. A lot of defenses needed for that. Daggers coming out again. The rule with daggers in this area, by the way, is if you ever have to dodge a dagger line, dodge towards the middle of the room. As long as you're dodging towards the middle of the room, you're not going to dodge your way out of healing or into Queensbane orbs. So that's the heuristic for that. So again, now boss to the middle of the room. All of these charges are going to go through the boss. Only 2 masks outstanding, so you can see we screwed up there. We could easily have wiped. If this ad had a mask, we would have wiped here, because somebody is targeted by this ad and is running out here. Yeah, this shaman over here is targeted by this ad and runs to the wrong spot. Somehow this doesn't wipe us, because it got lucky that we just didn't hit anybody there and didn't give them an extra Queensbane dot. Actually, we did. Somebody did get an extra Queensbane dot, I think, but they noticed it, moved out, popped an extra defensive. And look at this. This is a great example, actually. As long as you set up in a nice line here, right, we have 3 people with Queensbane all next to each other, but they're all just standing right in a line relative to each other, relative to the middle of the room, rather, and they don't hit each other with their orbs. Bang. Crisis averted. Bad play by that shaman. Good play by everybody else that got hit by that. And we had no deaths as a result. And even though there's an offset ad here, the grip is still... As long as the grip is actually not the problem. The grip is pretty forgiving on where the ads are. It's mostly just keeping the room symmetrical for all the future charges is why you have such precise positioning on this fight. Now we get the next intermission. Exactly the same as the first intermission. So just try not to move when you have a blaze line. If you do have to, because your section is about to get hit by Eclipse, then move along your blaze line rather than moving the blaze line, right? So like if you have a left-right blaze line, move left and right. If you have a diagonal one, move diagonally along it. Try very hard to not do any sketchy sideways blaze line movement as much as you can. So here we get into the last phase. Again, we had some deaths coming out of the intermission. You can 5-heal this fight. You can 4-heal this fight. We 4-healed our kill and 5-healed this week because they nerfed the Evoker healing, and we thought, okay, we definitely have enough damage now to definitely kill it, so let's just get an extra healer. I actually don't think it really matters. A lot of your deaths on this fight aren't really healing, right? Like, all those deaths we saw were just people getting double hit and killed to 0 really fast. The extra Ankh Totem is definitely nice, though, if you have an extra, say, Resto Shaman, which we just had our Ellie Shaman play Resto. So now we're in the last phase. All 5 ads get a mask, so as long as you move it to somewhere where it's getting hit by 2 ads, it will get 2 stacks. And then there are 3 masks outstanding. There's no choice but for those 3 to charge through the boss later, and that's just an extra damage amp you have to deal with at the end of the fight. It's unavoidable. So I always will move it to that spot so that we can always have it be right next to where it wants to be. for this set of rifts right now. And again, this is a fairly chill part of the fight for a little while. And then we get our next set of dashes. These just go through the boss, right? Take them to the other side, take them through the boss. And this will clear the 3 masks, which if you look on the nameplate there, that's just a permanent debuff now. So 30% increased damage, I think, for the rest of the fight. Pulses some extra bonus damage for the rest of the fight as well. And this will last into the intermission as well. So you really want to avoid this for as long as you can, but it's unavoidable up till that point. You can see here this rift, like, it looks a little close. It's not the end of the world. It's fine if it's that close. You don't want it to be too much closer. Ideally, it would be a little bit further away. And you do have to respect the rifts. Sometimes they activate in a different order, and the one will activate before the others, and they'll grip everybody in a little bit. So don't be close to a rift as they're activating. Last intermission has 3 instead of 2 sections active at the same time, which means you always have to be moving on your line between the safe and dangerous one. There's a lot less space as a result for you to be safe from each other, so it's very sketchy. And it also features the everybody getting hit at once mechanic at the end of this phase, so that's fun. That's a fun mechanic. You can see it coming out. I think it's about to come out. Yeah, we're going to see it here. Everybody gets a blaze line, and then if you survive this, the boss would start blasting all 6 parts of the room until you die. So that's the enrage of the fight. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helped. Hope you have a good time on Nexus Princess Ky'veza. It's a pretty fun fight. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.